Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel, and if you've ever watched someone you love sleep while planning your escape, you'll understand every word of this story. The room was quiet except for the ticking of the cheap alarm clock on her nightstand. 2:47 a.m. She was lying there peacefully, completely unaware that I was wide awake beside her, not with love, not even with hate, but with something worse, detachment. Her breathing was soft, rhythmic. Her hand was curled beneath the pillow where my hand used to be. That space had been cold for months, but I'd been too scared to admit it. Just hours before, I had reached over and lightly touched her shoulder. Nothing sexual, nothing pushy, just a simple, human touch. Her entire body tensed like I had startled a stranger on the street. Then came her words, sharp and casual. "Don't touch me tonight. Not, I'm not feeling well. Not, maybe tomorrow." Just those 5 words, delivered like a warning, not a request. I pulled my hand back like it had been burned, but it wasn't fire that scorched me. It was truth. The truth that this marriage had already ended, and I was the only one who hadn't left yet. So I stayed up. I sat there, staring at the wall, then at her, then back at the wall. At some point, I started drafting the goodbye text I'd send after I vanished. I deleted it, rewrote it, deleted it again. I couldn't decide what hurt more, saying too much or saying nothing at all. By sunrise, my suitcase was packed. I zipped it slowly so I wouldn't wake her. Cowardly, maybe. But I wasn't looking for a confrontation. I just wanted to reclaim whatever pieces of myself were left before they disintegrated completely. I left my wedding ring inside her jewelry box. I didn't want it. I didn't even want her to know right away. I wanted silence, distance, a moment to finally feel the absence I'd been sleeping beside for years. But I hadn't even made it out of the city when her world, and mine, began to unravel in ways I never saw coming. See, I thought I was just leaving a loveless marriage. What I was really walking away from was a secret life she thought I'd never find. I had barely reached the highway when my phone vibrated. One notification, unknown number. I ignored it. Then a second, then a third. No name, just digits I didn't recognize. At the next rest stop, I pulled over and opened them. The first message was short. "I didn't know you were her husband." The second came seconds later. "She told me you were separated." My stomach twisted. The third one, a screenshot. Her name, her photo, her messages. I felt the air leave my lungs in slow, sour gasps. There she was, my wife Mallory, in a flirty conversation with someone named Tanner. His profile picture was a blurry gym selfie, but I wasn't focused on his face. I was reading her words. "He doesn't even notice when I'm gone anymore," she had typed. "We're just roommates at this point." Roommates, that word again. That dagger she always used so casually, while I was busy trying to keep us from falling apart. I scrolled further down, and I found a photo I couldn't unsee. Her, in the same black sweater she wore last Thursday, leaning across a table with candlelight bouncing off her smile. A smile I hadn't seen in months. She told me she had a late HR meeting. That was the night I waited up with cold takeout, and her favorite show paused on the screen. I texted back. Just 3 words. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "Her coworker. We hooked up twice. I had no idea she was married until I saw your ring in a photo on her dresser." I stared at the message for what felt like an hour. Part of me wanted to throw my phone across the parking lot. Another part of me wanted to scream. But mostly I just sat there, completely numb. I should have felt rage, but I didn't. I felt shame. Shame that I had held on for so long to something that was already rotting beneath the surface. I thought leaving quietly would be the cleanest break. But now, I knew silence wasn't going to be enough. She had rewritten our entire story behind my back. And now, I was finally seeing the pages. I told myself I wouldn't look back. I told myself I'd drive until my tank was empty and figure things out from there. But at the next motel, sitting on a creaky bed that smelled like lemon cleaner and old cigarettes, I made the mistake of scrolling back through our shared photo album. It was still synced, still updating. And that's when I saw the picture, uploaded just the day before. A group photo at what looked like a wine tasting. 6 people, 4 glasses, 2 arms wrapped around each other a little too comfortably. Mallory and Tanner, him with his hand on her waist, her with that same sweater again. The one she said she hated but somehow wore to every company event lately. I remembered that sweater because I bought it for her. I actually thought she'd thrown it out. Funny how we assign meaning to things that don't mean a damn thing to them. What hit harder, though, was what she wasn't wearing, her bracelet. The gold one her sister gave her after beating breast cancer. The one she never, ever took off. It wasn't on her wrist. That might seem small, but to me, it screamed. It meant she didn't want to explain anything personal to the people she was with. She wasn't playing the role of a married woman. She was playing single, carefree, unattached. I zoomed in. Her smile wasn't forced. Her eyes weren't tired. This was the version of her I hadn't seen in over a year. The version she reserved for someone else. That night, I didn't sleep. I started writing a message. To her, number. To her mother. I typed out the words carefully. Hey, I left. I'm safe. You should know Mallory's been lying about our marriage for a long time. You raised her better than this. Then I deleted it. What was the point? No one ever wants to hear that their daughter turned out to be a stranger. No one wants to believe that the polite woman at Thanksgiving, who always brings cranberry sauce and folds napkins into swans, is capable of tearing her husband apart piece by piece in silence. But I knew what was coming next. She'd notice I was gone. She'd call, maybe cry, maybe pretend nothing happened. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one left guessing. I was done being the man she edited out of her life behind closed doors. I had a plan now, not for revenge, not for justice, but for truth. It took her 2 days to notice I was gone. That's not an exaggeration. 48 full hours without a single call, text, or "Where are you?" The woman who used to panic if I didn't answer within 15 minutes after work didn't seem to care that I had vanished into thin air. When her name finally lit up my screen, I was already in another state, sitting on a cheap patio chair at a roadside diner, watching 2 teenagers argue over the last fry. I let it ring. I didn't want to hear her voice. Not after everything I'd seen, not after the messages, the photo, the lies she wore like perfume. But curiosity is a cruel master. On the 3rd call, I answered, silent, waiting. She didn't start with, "Hi, no, where are you?" Just one shaky breath, and then I saw the note. "What is this?" Her voice was calm, but brittle. The kind of calm that people mistake for strength when it's really just fear trying on a new face. I still said nothing. I wanted her to fill the silence. She did. "I know we've been distant," she said. "But leaving like that, that's low, Ira." She said my name like it still belonged to her. I finally spoke. "You lied. About everything. I know about Tanner. I know you weren't working late. I know what that sweater really meant." The silence that followed was long enough that I thought she hung up. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. "It's not what you think." Those words. The universal anthem of every person caught red-handed. It's not what you think. Not what I think. Then what was it, Mallory? A team-building activity that involved candlelight and leaning into his chest. I wanted to yell, to scream, to cry. But instead, I asked her a question I had never dared to say aloud before. "Do you love him?" Her answer didn't come right away. She exhaled, slow and shallow, and then, in a voice I barely recognized, she whispered, "I don't know. I don't know." 3 words, not yes, not no. Just enough ambiguity to rip open a wound and salt it. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about fixing anything anymore. It wasn't about therapy or dates or fights over the dishes. It was about survival. Mine. I couldn't fight for a woman who didn't even know whether she still loved me. But before I could end the call, she said one more thing. The first genuine crack in her perfect voice. He didn't know I was married. That's when the next wave of truth hit me. She was planning a life that didn't include me at all. I didn't call her back after that. I couldn't. There was nothing left to talk about. The truth wasn't just leaking, it was flooding, and I was already halfway underwater. I checked into a longer stay motel just outside of Shelbyville, the kind of place where no one asks why a grown man is eating dinner out of a vending machine and staring at a wall for hours. But something was gnawing at me. I hadn't opened our shared email account. It was the one we used for home repairs, taxes, boring couple stuff. I logged in, expecting bills, coupons, maybe a receipt for that humidifier she never used. But what I found buried in the trash folder made my hands go cold. There it was, a flight confirmation, one way, her name on it, departing next week. Destination? Santa Fe. That didn't surprise me. Her sister lived there. What did surprise me was the second ticket, Not Tanner, a different name, one I didn't recognize. Miles Donovan. I clicked for the passenger details. Same flight, same seat row. And then it hit me. She wasn't running away with the guy from the messages. She had a whole other plan, and someone else entirely. Tanner wasn't the one she loved. He was just one more person in a line of distractions while she made quiet moves behind my back. It wasn't just infidelity. It was strategy. She was building an exit plan piece by piece, while pretending to fall asleep beside me each night. How long had this been going on? How many lies stacked inside lies had I believed because I was too scared to look? I scrolled through deleted messages and saw hotel bookings, tickets to concerts I was never invited to, and dinner reservations under a different last name, sometimes hers, sometimes his. One subject line stopped me cold. New lease agreement. The email had a PDF. I opened it. A rental contract for an apartment in downtown Santa Fe, signed just days ago. She had already made the move, emotionally, logistically, everything. I was just the background noise she forgot to mute. And still, she had the nerve to call me low for walking out. She tried calling again that night. I let it go to voicemail. The message was off. She sounded rehearsed, like she had written down what she wanted to say and was reading it into the speaker, pretending it was from the heart. Ira, I made mistakes. I got scared. Things spiraled. I never meant to hurt you. It wasn't the content that made my skin crawl. It was the tone. She was calm, calculated, no tears, no rawness. Not the kind of voice you use when your marriage is falling apart. It was the voice of someone practicing how to explain the unexplainable. I listened twice. On the second playthrough, I realized something chilling. She never once said she loved me. Not once. Not even as a formality. I started digging deeper. I remembered she left her old tablet at the house when I left. It was synced to our cloud account. I powered it on, cracked the passcode, our dog's birthday, some things never change, and started scrolling through her photo storage. Hidden albums, private notes, screenshots of text conversations. One folder was simply titled SC. Inside were selfies, but not the kind you'd send your husband. Lingerie shots, hotel mirrors, a close-up of her smiling on a beach I'd never been to. And worse, the cropped edge of a man's torso in the corner of two of them. Same navy watch. Same pale blue button-down. Not Tanner, Miles. There were journal-style notes too. Paragraphs where she processed her guilt. Not about cheating, but about finally letting go of a dead relationship. And accepting that happiness doesn't come from obligation. I wasn't even a man to her anymore. I was a sentence in a diary she had already closed. One note said, "He's sweet, but he'll never leave me. I don't think he knows how I stared at that line until the screen dimmed." That's what she thought of me. Not even angry, just predictable, safe. A man who would stick around no matter how many times she twisted the knife. And in a way, she had been right. Until now. I packed up the tablet and mailed it to myself. I didn't know why yet. Maybe I just needed a record. Maybe I wanted proof that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. But something told me I wasn't done discovering the depth of this betrayal. And the next message I received would make everything worse. The message came at 2:13 a.m. I was half asleep on a motel pillow that felt like it was stuffed with gravel when my phone buzzed. No contact name, just a number with an out-of-state area code. The text was short. "You don't know me, but I know Mallory. And I think we need to talk." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, debating whether to respond, whether it was even real. Before I could reply, another message followed. "This isn't a threat. I'm not Tanner, I'm not Miles. But I know about both of them, and I know your dog's name is Clementine." Clementine. No one outside our closest circle would know that. Not even her coworkers. That was the name we shouted every night for 4 years while chasing her around the yard when she stole socks. It was the password to our Wi-Fi. It was stitched into a Christmas stocking that still hung on our fireplace last year. Whoever this was, they knew us, knew me. I responded, "Who are you?" The reply didn't come for 5 long minutes. Then, "My name's Ellis. I dated Mallory. We were together 6 months. She told me you were divorced." My heart stopped. 6 months. That was right around when she stopped sleeping next to me. When she said she was working on herself and needed space to breathe, Ellis offered to call. I said yes. He sounded younger, maybe late 20s, nervous. Look, man, I didn't know. I swear. She told me you were bitter and controlling, that you'd moved out a year ago, that you wouldn't sign the divorce papers. She said she was stuck. I said nothing. Just listened as he painted a version of Mallory I didn't even recognize. Charming, spontaneous, free-spirited. She went by her maiden name with him, claimed she had no kids, no baggage, no commitments, no me. But the worst part? He didn't sound angry at her. He sounded broken, like she had convinced him too, that love meant keeping secrets, rewriting the past, and gaslighting anyone who got too close to the truth. He told me she left him a month ago with no explanation, no closure, just disappeared, blocked him on everything. And now, somehow, he'd found me. I asked him why he was reaching out now. He paused, then said something I'll never forget. Because I found a picture of you two. You were smiling. You looked happy. And I realized she used me to fill your absence. But she never stopped pretending you were gone. I never replied to Mallory again. Not after the voicemail, not after the screenshots, not after Ellis. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't turn me into the angry version of myself she probably told everyone about. Instead, I let the silence speak louder than any words. I went home one last time to pick up the last box of things I had left behind. Not for her, but for me. Clementine's leash, my father's watch, an old photo of my mom in the garden before her illness took her smile. All reminders of who I was before I started shrinking myself to fit her comfort zone. The house was eerily still. She wasn't there. A note had been left in my old drawer, folded once, sealed with nothing but her name signed in blue ink. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew it wasn't an apology, not really. Just closure on her terms, a ribbon on a gift I never asked for. I left it on the kitchen counter beside the old jar of tea she always said she'd drink but never did. Let her decide what to do with it. It's been 3 months since then. I moved into a quiet apartment above a bookstore downtown. I volunteer at a weekend market. I drink my coffee in peace and walk Clementine every morning before sunrise. And sometimes, only sometimes, I still count the cracks in the ceiling, but now they feel like mine. Like stories waiting to be written instead of reminders of what was broken. Mallory left behind a mess, but not a legacy. She thought she was the center of my story, but the truth is, she was just one chapter. And the best part? That chapter is closed. To anyone watching this who feels like they're holding on to something just because they're scared to let go, listen. You are not a background character in someone else's fantasy. You are not meant to beg for crumbs when you were made to hold a feast. Let them go, not in anger, not in revenge, just in peace. You'll be amazed how quiet it feels when your soul finally stops apologizing for existing. Thank you for being here on the Reddit Confessions channel. Now we want to hear from you. What's a historical moment or personal story where someone disappeared from your life and you never looked back? Share it in the comments. Let's talk about closure, growth, and moving on.